Hi everyone, it's Gerard here from Missio Scotland with another We Are Mission podcast. This time around we are speaking to Father John Clark, a Comboni missionary from Sunderland who spent time in both Belfast and Brazil, and we hear about his life and work. Absolutely delighted to be joined here with Father John Clark, a Comboni Missionary Father. Father, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us.
You're very welcome.
So, Father John, let's start just by something very simple and you telling us a wee bit about your background.
Well, I'm a Macam and a Takam. I'm from Sunderland, all right? And the centre of God's universe, for me anyway. And I come from a great family, a mixed religious family. Some are Catholics, some are non-Catholics. But we've all got a heart in the right place.
So what was growing up in Sunderland like?
Well, growing up in Sunderland wasn't easy, but I was with real people, and I was with people who had their feet on the ground, had a good heart, and they knew what made life tick. And I got a lot of good things from the people around me, from my family members, and from my friends at home, and from the Catholic community. There was some great people there. It was times when things were moving after the war, new housing estates, and Catholic communities being founded. But a lot of them came from the east end of Sunderland, St. Patrick's, which has a great connection with the Irish immigrants after the famine. And the faith of those people had really spread throughout Sunderland. And the one who influenced me most was a parish priest called Father Jeremiah O'Callaghan. A great man with a big heart, and he loved the poor. And he knew what suffering was all about. And he was a very gifted man, to be honest. Very, very gifted. I mean, tell me he was a great athlete, a great hurler, a boxer. And he was a bunny lad too, you know. He could have been in Hollywood. Anyway, he taught me what it means to help people in need.
Mm-hmm. How did he do that? Like, what was there any kind of given example?
Well, he helped a lot of people out in Sunderland after the town was going through hard times, paying the electricity bills, the rent bills, and anybody in need, he put his hand in his pocket. Of course, Jeremiah was from a family that went after the famine to the States, and they did very well. Mm-hmm. And they became rich, and they never forgot where they came from. They always loved their roots.
Mm-hmm. I think when we spoke before, you had said that when he first came into the area, he didn't have a parish house. Is that right?
He didn't have anything. He slept in a tent in a garden. Mm-hmm. And the Protestants actually went to the rent people in the middle of the town and insisted that he get a house, the next house that was available, because they were building a lot of houses, and he was put into the next house, and he never forgot the Protestants. Mm-hmm. Every Christmas or New Year, he'd give them a bottle of sherry or something.
Yeah.
As a token of thanksgiving.
So he was a really good Christian man, good Christian example.
It was human, mm-hmm. You know.
So I believe there was another fairly influential figure within your own family, also of Irish extraction or from
Ireland. We call our grandmothers Gannies. My Ganny, Annie Kelly. She was a fisherwoman by trade, but she had character. She really did, and she taught me a lot. She taught me what it meant to have a heart for those who were suffering, because in her job going around and helping people out, she came into contact. And there's actually a legend about her. She saw two coppers one day messing about, badly using somebody. And the story is that she went up to the two coppers and banged their heads together. Oh no, she was a formidable woman.
Yeah.
Aye.
And was her faith very strong?
Aye, but it wasn't a kind of pious faith. It was a faith that was concrete, that was helping people, that was getting people out of poverty, and getting justice for them. You know what I mean?
And that's something that stuck with you from a young
Aye,
age?
very much so, very, very much. And of course, my father was at sea all his life, so whilst my mother was working as an upholsteress down the east end of Sunderland, my granny would be looking after us as kids, and she'd be showing us how to make mats, how to draw, and she'd keep an eye on us, make sure we kept the right company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
How many brothers and sisters were you?
Well, we were 8 in the family, 8 kids, 2 girls and 6 boys.
Wow. So a big traditional Irish family.
And every time my dad come home from sea, he produced. Thank God I'm here.
Fantastic. So, obviously, you've had two very big kind of faithful examples there within your family and your local parish and things like that. So, who or what was a kind of catalyst for you deciding to take up your vocation? Was there anything that was a major influence, or any person that was a major influence?
Yeah, I mean, I went to St. Patrick's School. The Sisters of Mercy, especially Sister Nolasco, my headmistress, she was, I could see her going into school in the winter morning and the old coal fires. I'd see her putting the coal under the top of the fire, and she'd be struggling to lift it up. But we're a hard crowd to educate. I tell you, the East End of Sunderland, we had some characters amongst lads and lasses, but the sisters were there for us and had great hearts for us. And even during the time of the school, they give everything God. And at weekends, it's on the Saturdays, they'd come and visit the families. Of course, there was a lot of sisters then. But the Sisters of Mercy and Son have been a great influence in everyone's life, to be honest.
So, was there any kind of one moment that you can pinpoint where you said, "This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to become a missionary priest"?
There was this sister in Glasgow, the headmistress. One day she said, "Oh, John, I've got a thing here from the calendar, the Verona Father's calendar." I said, "Oh, thanks, sister," and she gave it to us. And I saw it. If you're interested in being a priest, write to this. And I wrote to this Father Felix Chentis. And later on, he came to see me at the Immaculate Heart of Mary in Sunderland. I thought he was a rabbi, actually. He looked like a Jewish rabbi to me. He was an Italian, but it was good. Anyway, from there on, I said, yeah, I want to be a missionary. Now, why did I want to be? You see, the Verona Fathers were called Sons of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And for me, the heart's very, very important, especially if you're dealing with people who are suffering. And that's what attracted me. I mean, Comboni Missionaries of the Sacred Heart, that's what still keeps the plug in, you know what I mean, for me.
Yeah. So once you'd made that decision, what was the trajectory? Where did you go and study and things?
The White Fathers came to me in the school and said, look, it was a Father Maguire. He said, I've already booked you into our seminary here outside Edinburgh. Now, what's the place that they used to have there? It's not Musselburgh. They used to have a seminary there outside Edinburgh. Anyway, I said, no, Father, I've already sort of signed up to go to the Verona Fathers, so I went off to the Verona Fathers. Their junior seminary was north of York, a place called Stillington.
And what was, how did you find seminary when you were first in it?
Oh, tough.
Tough, yeah.
The first year I cried every night. I was homesick.
Yeah.
I broke my heart. I did, honest, broke my heart. But I knew what, I didn't know, but I mean, I realised that I'd have to give up a lot of things. And every day before I was ordained a priest, I asked God to give me the grace to be made as a priest after his own heart. See, this heart thing is very important for me, especially now, I mean, with the war in, Ukraine and June's the month of the Sacred Heart, and you've got to be attracted towards that. And what I find fascinating is that there's a hell of a lot of suffering around about me. The COVID and this war thing, and there's no shortage of work. And well, because of my health and my age, I think God's taking the mickey out of me instead of getting stuck into me when I was healthy and robust. And that is saying, I know, Clarky, you might be weak and an hard man, but I'm going to make use of you.
So, Father John, what surprises did fall on your vocation bring? Was there anything that was surprising to you?
There was a lot of things, man. I was a young lad, and you know, you fall in love as a teenager, you know what I mean? And the lasses fall in love with you. And I was always warned, you know, when you're a priest, it'll get harder. And it's true, when I went to Brazil, man, them lasses were gorgeous. And I used to say, God, why did you make me a celibate, man? Yeah. I met, there was some good students around about me, some from this part of the world too, from Glenboy, Cobrig. I found it easy to get on with the lads from here because the lads south of Durham, they spoke a different twang, man. And the lads from London just couldn't understand them at all at times. No, I couldn't understand, but there wasn't discrimination on my part. It was just that different values, man.
Yeah. So, the actual term vocation, what does it mean to you?
Well, you call and you're chosen, and yeah, that's the way I look at it. Like, you know, and why you called me, I don't know. I mean, I think it was he mustn't have much of a good sense of choice, but anyway, he chose me, and I'm grateful. I can't complain. I've only one regret, Bonnie lad, and that is I'd love to be a holy priest. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, a lad who's got a heart and need of people who suffer. That's all I want to be in life. I didn't want titles, didn't want acclamations. I'm not into that game. It's all about poor people, man. That's what I'd stake my life on. You can put a bullet through my head if you want. And I remember once, you know, I was being interviewed by the BBC in London. And I get into all kinds of mischief occasions, lad. And the lass who was interviewing me she says to me in a posh London accent or southern accent, she says, what would you do if there was any poor people around? And she gobsmacked me. I couldn't answer her back. I'd be lost, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I've been stumped a few times.
So when were you ordained a priest?
I was ordained 49 years ago on April the 28th, 1973.
1973.
In the Holy Rosary Church, Sunderland.
Right. And how did the rest of your family react to kind of you taking your vocation and becoming a priest? Were they quite happy for you?
My dad was a Protestant, God rest him. He was the best Catholic I met, actually. And he was away at sea. He was in Japan at the time. But for all of us, he always left £1,000 for the big day. That would be the wedding day. And he left me £1,000. So we had a great time. It was a great. There were people from Belfast. There was people from Scotland. There was a bagpiper from Glenboy. He marched me into the chapel, and he marched me through Sunderland into the Catholic club where we had the reception afterwards. That was a great day.
Yeah.
It's kept me going, to be honest. Aye. And the bishop who ordained me, he was a Holy Ghost father. Now, he was a Holy Ghost, he was from the north, he was just down the road from Sunderland, from Consett. And he was the bishop of a Nigerian place called McCurdy. And I always remember when I was at home and working with the little sisters of the poor, he was there visiting us. He said, you know, John, when you get ordained and I'm at home, I'll ordain you. I said, that's okay. And his name was James O'Hagan. And I was the last one he ordained, God rest him. I wonder why.
So, Father John, I believe, like, obviously before you went to Brazil on mission, you were for a time in Belfast. Now, was that before you were ordained, or was it shortly after?
No, both before. I trained with the De La Salle brothers. I landed in Belfast, the Glen Road St Patrick's Training School the night before internment. Then the following year I went there for the summer too. And after that, I was asked to be a teacher, so I had the summer holidays when I was teaching, and I was went and helped in the MRF. And then before I went to Brazil, I was on loan to the Diocese of Down and Connor. And to be honest, Jerry, the best time of my life as a priest was in the MRF, because we were suffering like hell, all of us. Honest, we were. And, you know, we're seeing violence these days. And Ukraine, but a lot of the stuff I'm watching on television, I'm glued to the television actually, Jerry. It brings back a lot of memories. And I'm watching the television at times, and tears are just rolling down my eyes because it brings back. I was with great people, and they strengthened my faith. I hope I strengthened their faith. And of course, 2 priests and a priest were killed. Yeah, one. And when they were both killed, I always remember in my prayers that night, Jerry. You can kill a priest in the Merv, but this priest will spring up all over the world to substitute them.
And well, for people that are listening, the Murph, in short, or Ballymurphy in Belfast is, I think, safe to say, known as quite a Republican area back in the day. Probably still is. And you were kind of placed in there. Now, you obviously came from Sunderland, where I would imagine there was the army were kind of held in high regard and things like that. When you were there, did your opinion of that change?
Well, I was known in the Merv by many people as the wee Brit. All right. Now, I was on the street a lot, anything. I was always there with the people. And even some of the soldiers, they'd be there and they'd say, "Good morning, Father." Now, I always had this thing, you never let the people down. I'd say, "Good morning, son. Keep safe." And then I'd be called to houses where the Brits would be raiding and maltreating the people, to be honest. But when they saw me, they buckled up and watched the P's and Q's. And I was, there's a side of John Clark that's very cheeky, Oh no, no, I am. I'm very, very much to the point. I don't mess. And when I see people being used and abused, I don't know where the courage comes from, but I found it hard, Jerry, because I tell you why. These were lads from my part of the world, from the northeast, from Glasgow, Catholic lads too, and they were caught right in the middle of it. And I was right in the middle of both sides, wasn't I? But I always maintained, even when I was hearing confessions, anybody who came in from the Provos or the Stickies, I'd say, "Look, whoever you are, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say the same thing as our Lord would say to any soldier. You only obey the command to preserve life. No one has the right to give you and me an order to kill."
Yeah. I mean, and obviously, you're getting into somewhere at a time where it was, there was a hotbed of violence and a very, very fractious time and stuff like that. But I remember you telling me some stories that were, kind of dark humour. And I remember,
I'll tell you one. You're a Scot, so I'll tell you. I remember one day I'm walking up the White Rock Road as I did. I walked all around the place, man. Everybody knew me, and I knew everybody else. And there were moments of great graces, to be honest. Anyway, I'm walking up one day up the White Rock with a daughter of Charity, Sister Bernadette. She's still alive, God bless her. And the foot patrol's coming down. And of course, it's the Black Watch, okay? They're coming down there, old Scots there, and this Scot is that big, raucous voice, and he started accusing me with sexual words and that. And the lad on the other side, the Scots lad on the other side, told him to shut up, keep his mouth closed, and to leave me and the nun alone. But he kept on. And anyway, so the lad on my side, he put down his gun. He went over the road, and he was risking his life, but everyone was watching him, and they start fighting. They start fighting, the two of them, 2 Scots. And all the neighbours were out watching it, and they were all saying, "Clarky, you've got everybody fighting over you, man." And it's a laughable situation, but it's a sad situation, but it just goes to show, no? And but the hardest part of the Murph is when when the Provies and the Stickies were fighting each other, knocking the hell out of each other. I'll never forget that night. 3 or 4 times I was called out, and when you go to an house, when you see the women and the kids broken hearted, and it was hard.
Yeah. I mean, just from your own perspective, and you touched on it a wee bit, the Ballymurphy massacre incident, where, like you say, 2 priests were killed, and a whole number of innocent,
New Mullen and Noel Fitzpatrick,
and a number of innocent people. I mean, they were people that you would have known intimately. I mean, how did that affect you when you're a young priest and you're in this situation?
Well, I knew them afterwards, after they were killed, actually, because when I was working the De La Salle, I'd be going into the area, but I wouldn't know them. It's only really when they were killed. It inspired me. If I'm a priest today, I mean, every morning I get up, Jerry, I say a prayer to Hugh Mullen and Noel Fitzpatrick. I do, asking me to be a priest like them, to give me your life for people. I know I do every morning without fail. They were great examples for me.
You had, you mentioned as well, like an incident where it was quite surreal, maybe a bit scary, where you were called for to go and check. Was it like a body somewhere? But
yeah, you got calls right, left, and centre. But you any time I went out, I knew the boys were watching me where I was going and made sure I was all right. I knew that. They didn't have to tell me that, no. And I was called. This wee boy came and said, "Oh, the man needs a priest. He's looking for you." It was a deserted house. I think it had been bombed out of the house. It took on fire, and there was trees. All the windows were broken and all that, and there was tree trunks going up into the windows. So I says, "Where's the man, son?" He said, "It's over here, father." So I went up, and as I was getting through the window, I saw the khaki uniform. I said, "No, we don't know." And I saw 3 or 4 soldiers with the guns. I said, someone said there's someone dying here. Can I help as a priest? And the soldier said, you stop in here, for fuck's sake, stop here. And I looked. I couldn't say no, could I? There was more than me. I said, okay. And then they were on the walkie-talkies with them. And within about 30 seconds, Jerry, you could hear the Saladin coming down. And of course the people were gathering around because they knew I was up there, no? Anyway, the one in charge of he says, right, I said, well, I'm going now. He says, no, you're not, you're coming, we're going out first, and you're coming out there. And couldn't argue, could I, Jerry? So he went down. And one of them cut his hand, and the blood was flowing on. And then I'm coming out, and I was making sure the wee kid was all right. And then when we gets down, and there was about 20 women there. And they were going, don't touch our wee priest, will kill you. No, you know what the women are like. And of course the Saladin came in, and the soldiers couldn't get in quick enough. Anyway, they went away, and the lasses were saying, "You're all right, father?" I said, "Oh, I'm all right, thank you." And the wee boy, "Okay, thanks, son." Anyway, I gets to the house, and I wasn't in the house 2 seconds. The phone rings from the barracks. And the major said, "Oh, thanks very much for saving the lives of the..." And I just said, I just didn't say anything. I just put the phone down.
Mm-hmm. So you used as a human shield, effectively?
Oh, aye. That's...
Yeah. I mean, all of those kind of experiences as a young priest, I mean, as an introduction to missionary priesthood, it was quite stark, really.
It was the best apprenticeship I had to be a priest. And I wanted to say something there, which is, for me, it's very, very important, is that, you know, if you need the people, Jerry, this is what life's all about, man. You don't have to be a priest to say that. If you need the people who know what life's all about, and if you're willing to learn, and then that's the life of a missionary. I'm learning every day, man. You never know it all, and there's always something to learn, and you learn from. Well, I've learned from the faith of the people. I met people with great faith, honestly, great faith. I'll tell you a little story now. I'm doing my sick calls the first Fridays now, at about 40, and I'm in the West Rock, and I'm going into the houses, and I goes through for the first time I went into this house, and I saw a fantastic picture of a Celtic player, Charlie Tully. Yeah. And I said to myself, I'd love that. Anyway, I wonder what this woman. So I gets in the old woman. She was a lovely old woman. And I says, hey, daughter, you see that picture there? He was a great footballer. Charlie Tully, you know, the famous story, the corner kick. He scored twice, didn't he? Mm-hmm. And she looked up to me, and I can still see her face, Jerry. That's my son.
Oh, wow.
He did die. He was dead. But it really...
Yeah.
No, there's lots of incidents like that, Jerry, that... oh, yeah.
So, I mean, even in the midst of such a volatile situation, did you enjoy your time in Belfast as an introduction to missionary life?
I grew up. Yeah. I learned all that theory and spirituality, but it was neat with the poor that I really thought came to light, you know.
My Father John, just to dial back a wee bit, why did you choose the Comboni Missionaries as opposed to the White Fathers?
Well, the title Sons of the Sacred Heart, the heart bit got me. Mm-hmm. It still gets me. How am I, Jerry? If I haven't got heart, I'm not good, am I? Mm-hmm. You know, it's like if you don't have any respect for the broken hearts of the poor, you don't believe in God, man.
Yeah.
You might think I'm a heretic for saying that, but I'm not.
In those kind of early days and stuff like that, and then as you were, continuing on your missionary priesthood, where did you draw strength from?
I drew a lot of... Well, my spirituality would be Irish, Celtic, you know. Mm-hmm. I always remember my mother saying, I always said, Ma, how do you say your prayers? Bonnie lads, you say, look, son, forget about the patter, the chatter, as you'd say. Get on your knees and pray. That's how you learn to pray. Yeah. And I had a great devotion to her. I had a great devotion to St. Teresa. I remember even at school, St. Patrick's used to come up here to coffee. The Sisters of Mercy used to bring us up here once a year, the kids, to the grotto, which for us was in the mining village. You see, a lot of mining villages around Sunderland.
Yeah.
Was something you could identify with.
Sure.
You know, Canon Taylor. Yep. You know, it's a call and it's a mystery. And then, later on in life, my novice master said, you know, I always believed that you should have been a monk. I thought it said chipmunk. Oh, the Jolly Friar. Anyway, he said, oh yeah, he says, well, I was at one time in my life, Jerry, thinking very seriously about being a little brother of Charles de Foucauld. Mm-hmm. You know, this idea to shut your trap and just live. I think that's got a great attraction. And I still have certain things in me that Charles de Foucauld rather than Daniel Comboni.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a lad who'd go and blow me trumpet and say this and say that. I'd probably not let on anybody who I am and what I am. Just get on with it.
In terms of your vocation as well, like, is there a kind of scripture passage that defines it for you?
Yeah, it's weird on now. I have called you by your name, you're mine. Mm-hmm. Cloggy, you're mine.
No, that's fantastic. When okay, so you were in the North Island first in Belfast, and so, how were you received there by the people?
Well, at first everybody was looking at me, but obviously to go to a place like that, someone had obviously introduced me and saying, look, he's this, he's that, but keep an eye on the date. Yeah. And Jerry, I used to go to the older ones. You see, some of the older men and women were in the old campaigns. They'd been in the Republic, and you know, and I learned a lot. Oh, I did. I used to say. And there was a woman, an old woman, Mrs. Clark. Of course, me being Clark, she took to me, didn't she? She even gave me a Gansey. Here, keep yourself warm, father. And I remember she used to tell me, and some of the things that she did, and there were eye openers, and I realized then, Jerry, that I had so much to learn, and I still At the moment, I think that's what you know, you never learn it all, but the secret is like our Lord, you see. You do it. Jesus was 30 odd years, 30 years in Nazareth. So what the hell was he doing in that silence? But he saw so much suffering and he proved that he knew what suffering was all about and what he taught. But it had a great effect on him, you know. If only I could live as a good priest, a bit of fairness and honesty. You've got to be genuine, you know. I mean, I took 3 vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. If only I could live up to them, man. I'd be on top of the league in the Saints, wouldn't I? I might be at the bottom at the moment, but I intend to get up the top.
So after Belfast, you were eventually posted to Brazil.
Yeah, I was teaching then. Before that, I went to that, but I'm not a teacher, man. So Jerry, I tell you what I did. I learned. I realised that even during the Troubles, I was working with great people like Des Wilson, and they were always operating out of an idea. And Des taught me this: get a good idea, make sure it's good, otherwise you do more harm to people than you think. And a good idea is the most practical thing in life.
So, I mean, it does sound like a good kind of missionary education for you before you went to Brazil.
Why?
So, moving on to Brazil, what was your kind of first impression of life there, and how were you received in that country?
First, I gets into the airport in Sao Paulo, and the federal police there, they couldn't speak English, and I couldn't speak Portuguese, could I? And they detained me for 3 hours, and I was saying, what the hell's happening here? And I was getting desperate, and I was getting hungry. And I was saying, and there's people passing, priests and nuns. I said, I'm going to nab one of these nuns, see if they speak. And I said, sister, do you speak English? And this German sister said, I do. I said, can you help me, sister, please? I said, I'm a priest. And okay. So she went and asked the fellow, what's happening here? And the fellow priest said, he's got a document there that hasn't been translated into English. And I says to the sister, I went to the Brazilian embassy in Liverpool and in London. They told me I didn't need it. And I said, wait on, sister. Sister, I've only got pounds and I've got dollars. Can you give me some Brazilian money? And I'll make sure you get it back tomorrow. And she did. God bless her. So I got and she phoned up our people in Sao Paulo. And she said they'll be out here in 2 hours' time. So they came out and then we don't know. I gets into the house. I was knackered. I travelled from Newcastle, London, Amsterdam, Sao Paulo. And I was absolutely knackered anyway. I was starving. So the priest was talking in Latin. And he said, come on, get something to eat. So I got something to eat. Then previously I'd put my case in the room where he showed me. Anyway, I goes back up to the room after I'd eaten. And the window's wide open and my cases and all had been knocked off.
Goodness. First day?
First day. And wait on them. The next day, I had diarrhea. I think I was on the toilet about 20 times because of change of food, change of climate.
Yeah,
and all
yeah,
that,
sure.
So that was the welcome, but toughened me up.
Yeah. So when you were there, I believe that you were very, very interested from an early stage in the lives of the indigenous peoples in Brazil. Tell us a wee bit about that.
Well, I thought, if missionaries to the poor and most abandoned, and the poor and most abandoned in Brazil were the Afro-Brazilians, which for the Combonis was the big attraction, but the ones that were suffering more were the indigenous people. Now, our lot were very much against me getting in touch with them. They said, "Oh no, you've got to understand how the land," which I can understand, but my heart was always with the indigenous people. Anyway, so they put me in charge of a group of philosophers and a parish priest in a place called Curitiba, Paraná. And there was a big favela there, Villa Sibisa, and I was always there, going around and that. But the authorities knew, especially the Archbishop, thought I was a rebel, shit stirrer, so he expelled me. And from there on, I had to go up to the Amazon, out of the road, but I created more trouble there, I suppose. The indigenous people, from there on, I was surrounded by them, and it was there that I really got involved. But the Brazilian government, through their indigenous agency, it spread the rumour that I'd come from Belfast and that I was a threat to the national security.
Really?
Oh, aye. It's amazing what that. And I knew all the time, there was people coming in, coming out from where I was. You knew they were working for the CIA. I'll give you an example. You'd be saying mass in the big chapel and church, and they put a tape recorder on them. They could have been press people or something, but they usually press people as permission on that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you knew that they were playing a game, You couldn't trust anybody.
So you went from one dangerous place to another.
Very dangerous, yeah.
I mean, were you scared? Because I know when we spoke in the past, you've mentioned the example of Father Ezekiel Ramin. You also had your own brother who was killed there. So tell us a wee bit about those.
Well, my brother was in the Merchant Navy. He worked for an American oil firm, but he was killed in Belém. And we were actually, before he was killed, we'd already planned to meet together and go out somewhere in Brazil, And anyway, that happened. That really hurt, and that really got to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't backing away from Brazil. I was more determined to go there and do something,
Yeah.
And Ezekiel, when he came, he'd only been there about a year, and I knew he was the weakest link in the chain. And I knew how these people operated. See, they were trying to get me right, left, and center, but the Indians were on my side. The Indians would say, "Look, John, don't go there." They'd stop you, and they'd know you'd be moving, and say, "Don't." So you'd be tipped off. But unfortunately, Ezekiel, he didn't have that experience that I had, and he was left by himself. I had to come home. My mother died, so I came home, and after we buried her, I went back, and he was ambushed one day because he stood up for the indigenous people. Mm-hmm. And all the time I was trying to get in touch with the indigenous people and win their confidence. And any time I got a chance to speak on their behalf or write an article, I used to do that.
Mm-hmm. So that was, I guess...
And his cause for beatification is up, for Ezekiel Ramin.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But we're not in Ezekiel, and John Clark are not into that. Mm-hmm. He's already a saint.
So, your brother was Charles, I believe.
Charlie,
your brother. Was it this? I think the last time we spoke, it was the same sort of thing. He was sticking up for people, maybe in a different sense.
It's a character. It's a characteristic of the Clarks.
Yeah.
Well, once again, it's the Irish blood in us,
Yeah.
Try to take away the freedom of us will.
So with him, it was he was trying to stick up for the pointing out the safety things.
That's right.
Yeah,
well, he complained to the owners, and the owners said, "Oh, don't worry about that. Don't worry about them." But he had values. He was he was the best out of the family, actually. Mm-hmm. And God calls the young, doesn't he?
You think you said as well, though, eventually when it wasn't as contentious an issue, I know it's probably still a contentious issue, the kind of Brazilian government looked to you to help as a kind of intermediary with the indigenous people. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. When they were in trouble, dire straits, they'd call. I mean, one day they burnt down the town hall with all the illegal titles to land in them, okay? And I got the blame for that. And the next day I was surrounded by the army, tanks and all that, But Having come from Belfast, I was used to that.
Yeah, sure.
Thought I was back at home again. Anyway, so that was one thing. But there was a thing, the Indians threatened to burn down the town. And they came straight to me then and said, look, they're threatened. And I said, okay, well, what would you like me to do to help? Can we have a meeting with you? I said, yeah, where? So in my house, yeah, you certainly can, because to meet anywhere else, these people won't come. I said, so come. I'll arrange with the chiefs. Don't bring any guns. We'll come and we'll sit. So we'll sit down and we pacified the things. But they were frightened. The soldiers, the Brazilians, were frightened. But they also came to me sometimes when they were moving the white settlers from the indigenous lands. They came to me to be a kind of a mediator.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And also something, we glossed over. You actually contracted leprosy when you were there, didn't you?
Oh, I did. Well, that's what snookered me. And I thought I was a great footballer. Could have played at Roker Park and a boxer. Yeah, but I took more to the football and the boxing. Anyway, so it's over 20 years ago. I've got leprosy in the right leg, and it does affect me. It's affecting me very badly at the moment because I'm 75. But they warned me about that. I can't get my balance. But I keep on going. I'm trying to develop as best as I can my sense of humour.
I think you've got a fantastic sense of humour. I think it's well developed in all the times I've spoke to you. For you personally, what are the most important qualities or characteristics that a missionary must possess?
Sense of humour.
Yeah.
That's very, very important. There was times when life was really rough and tough, Jerry, and things got on top of me. And I tried my best to develop a sense of humour. Another thing, I remember the good times you had with the poor. Times of enjoyment, times of encouragement. Even if you only had rice and beans and you were filling your belly, and you could go and have a pee and a poo. And that's the essential things. And also, my faith increased, yeah. I'd love to celebrate the Eucharist in such a meaningful way for the people. And I need to develop my own spirituality and my own feeling for liturgy. But I need to connect that with the lives of the poor people who are suffering. That's the secret.
So, sense of humour, you need to have a connection with the people. Those are the important things.
Aye.
Yeah.
I think for me anyway. I might be wrong, but I'm learning, Jerry. I mean, I'm in for the kill.
What do you feel are the most positive things about being a missionary priest?
You're surrounded by great people who've got faith here at home. I mean, I do mission appeals. I've been doing for the past 10 years here in Scotland, but for the past 30 years in Ireland and Wales and England. Oh no, our people have faith. And Jerry, our people love their priests and they love the missionaries.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the term mission itself, what does it mean? What does it mean to you?
You know, Jerry, I'm beyond terms and words. I'm into myself as a person, as a human being.
Sure.
And I asked myself, what do I give any meaning to people's lives? I think a missionary is like everybody else. He tries to give meaning to people's lives.
I mean, in terms as well, like of having been in Belfast and in Brazil, did you find there was a difference in the faith or the church in those countries than there is here in Scotland?
Oh, Jerry, since I came home from Brazil, I'm like a fish out of water, man. The church here is not the same as the church in Brazil or in Belfast during the Troubles. See, I think I've learned something from our Lord, and it's the more you're close to people, the theologians have a big dirty word for it, incarnation, in it. As long as you're long as you pitch your tent among the people who are suffering, you go in places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's for me.
So, you said that you're approaching 50 years as a priest. How would you sum up that life? Like, what's been some of the highlights for you and things?
Some of them. I made some mistakes, but never made any mistake willfully, on purpose. Never meant to inflict suffering on people or hardship, but I did because when you're new to the game, you tend to stick to rules, don't you? Mm-hmm. And sometimes the rules are harsh, and you don't understand the hardships of people. That's what I'd like. If I had a choice, I'd become a priest, but a much better priest, much better human being. And but it's all about. I'm constantly getting back to this thing about being near to people who are suffering.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and I've studied a lot, Jerry. To be honest, I have studied quite a bit. It's not studies. Studies can help you, and they have helped me. But the University of the Lives of the People who suffer, that's the best university to go to, and I don't intend to leave it.
But I mean, what about how can lay people, missionaries, people that might not get to go to far off places, what's the best way for a lay person to be a missionary?
Live your life wherever you are. Do your job well. Put your heart and soul into whatever you do, and create friendships inside the family and outside the family that are honest, that are fair. Doesn't matter who the other person is, whether it's Tom, Dick, or Harry, or Janet, or Mary. Doesn't matter what foot they kick with. We're all Jock Thompson's Waynes, and let's get stuck in and let's build a better world.
Absolutely. What about how's the situation for the Combonis throughout the world? How's it looking?
It's mainly in Africa that we're really alive, vibrant, as we'd say, Mm-hmm. But otherwise, we're struggling like everybody else, but we're not going to give up.
Absolutely. And just in terms of, you've always been a good friend to different charities like Missio Scotland. Why is, Missio Scotland's work and its, partners in the Pontifical Mission Societies, why is it important?
Well, Jerry, man, Missio's been very good to me. I'm not much good to Missio. I mean, that's where me mince tatties come from, man. It's where the mince tatties on the table come from. Generosity of the Scottish Catholic people. What I would say now, I would say that Missio is in good hands. I'm really delighted that the lay people are getting more involved, because that's the future. Also we've got your man Vincent. He's battling on, and I think there's a lot of green lights shining brightly for the future. Mm-hmm. And the more lay people we get involved, and there's a great crop of young people who've got tremendous willpower, and you, in your job, going around schools and talking to students, and it's there, and we can getting it out of them slowly but surely, Jerry. When you plant a seed, Jerry, you cannot next year harvest. You've got to, and the job you're doing, raising awareness, it's a long process.
Mm-hmm. And just finally, Father John, a couple of things actually. What would you like your faith legacy to be? That's the first question. Right. And secondly, tell us something about yourself that nobody else knows. It doesn't need to be about your faith. It can be about, anything.
When I die, Jerry, I don't know where I'm going to be buried or thrown into the River Clyde or the River Wear in Sunderland. If somebody could just write on my tombstone, Clarkey tried hard to love the poor. That's it. Okay.
Fantastic.
And what else was there?
Oh, just a wee fun fact at the end. I usually ask everybody to tell me something about themselves that somebody out there might not know.
Wait on one. I made the Pope laugh.
You made the Pope laugh. You need to elaborate on that. You can't.
Right. A couple of times I've been asked to go to Rome. I'm not a kind of fella into these things, but I went to Rome at a general chapter, and it was John Paul II. I went with my mate. My mate was from Dundee, Scotland, David Glenday. He was elected the general, and I was behind him now. Anyway, on purpose, David Glenday and John Clark, we said, oh, let all other lads go in front of us, and then we'll go at the end. Okay. So everybody went in, shaking hands with the Pope, and there comes the Clarky. And I looked at the Pope, he was sick. And I said, from the bottom of my heart, I was going to say something, but I said, God bless you, Holy Father. And everybody laughed. The guards and the Pope laughed. And I looked at all this. She'd heard the banter after that. And the Holy Father said, God bless you too. Anyway, when I'm coming out of the audience, all our crowd, hey, you're not supposed to say God bless the Pope, man. He's supposed to say that to you. I said, away, man, I want a pint of beer, man. Anyway, now that pint of beer. I made him laugh.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, and all the guards were laughing too. But I was going to say to him, Jerry, come on, I'll take you home to Balmurphy. I was honest. I was in my heart. I said, we look after you, pal. Because I'd seen John Paul II when he came to Galway. Mm-hmm. I took the young people from the Murph.
So okay. you had designs and trying to take him back to Ballymurphy. That would have been interesting anyway.
He should have been there anyway. When I didn't, should have come up. I would have brought him up in the Queen. I would have put him in the flipping Belfast Square and show what the fight was all about.
Yeah. Father John, thank you very much for your time. It has been a pleasure as always. Thank you. Missio Scotland is the Scottish branch of the Pontifical Mission Societies, the Pope's official charity for overseas mission. To learn more about the work of Missio Scotland, you can visit our website www.missioscotland.com. You can like us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Missio Scotland. You can also follow us on Twitter, Missio_Scotland, and on Instagram, Missio Scotland. If you would like to donate to Missio Scotland, visit www.missioscotland.com/donate. You can also call us on 01236 449 774 or send donations to Missio Scotland, 4 Laird Street, Coatbridge, ML5 3LJ. Please keep us in your prayers. Thank you and God bless.